The Go for Growth Show, powered by Beepo.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome to this episode of the Go for Growth Show. My name is Mark Engelmann and I'll be your host today. I'm very happy to welcome Ian Campbell, the founder at Aire Software, to the show. Welcome, Ian.
Hi, Mark. Nice to be here.
Thank you for coming. So Ian, let's get straight into it. What do you guys do at Aire?
We call ourselves a digital resource company. We provide digital employees to the real estate industry. And your listeners might say, well, what's a digital employee? Our digital employee platform is called Rita. And Rita is a AI-powered automation platform. Some listeners might be aware of techniques called robotic process automation, or RPA. It's fundamentally what we do. We take really complex business workflows and we effectively try and automate them. And Rita is our platform, our digital employee that effectively does that work.
Yeah, interesting. So AI is one of those sort of, hot buzzwords at the moment. It seems like everyone's talking about it, gets a lot of media coverage. Can you just explain, what it is and maybe give some examples of how it might work in a business?
Yeah, it's like it's one of those buzzwords. It is a buzzword, AI, and in effect, it kind of refers to, I guess, a family of technologies and disciplines, which are probably beyond the scope for our conversation today. But I'll just drop some very technical bombs on you right now. So things like natural language processing, machine learning, deep learning, neural networks, all these things are kind of, even big data, predictive analytics come under, I guess, this banner of artificial intelligence. But it's at its very core understanding, what AI is about is it's about enabling machines to make decisions on behalf of humans. And so the types of AI that people read about in the media today are things like autonomous driving, which is really just a science or a set of techniques that allows a computer to make a decision about when to turn the steering wheel, when to push the pedal, when to push the accelerator, when to push the brake. It's really just, it's almost like workflow, a bunch of workflow with a set of decision-making triangles. So now that, I guess, what's different about AI today and historically what's been available to us in terms of automation and just straight automation is that a lot of the new technologies of AI allow us to work with huge volumes of relatively unstructured data. So you take like autonomous driving is all about machine vision, and literally they're just taking these computers are taking a live stream of vision, which is very unstructured, processing it and then making a decision about what that vision represents. So that kind of technology is amazing. And it's really only happening now. Why is it getting so much media coverage now? Because we're kind of getting to this point where the computer processing power, the volume of data sets are only just now able to effectively provide real-time decision-making that allows us to solve so many more problems.
Yeah, right. And so, one question that I've always had is I've kind of got this very basic understanding of artificial intelligence and robots and all that sort of stuff. But how do you actually get AI to do what you want it to do?
Well, so that's the $1 million question, right? And when I approached this space, when we were thinking about starting Aire and getting into AI and understanding it in terms of what it could do, there's two ways you can approach a problem. One is a tech-first approach, as in you go, well, here's neural networks and here is deep learning and this is how it works and this is what it can do. Or you go with a problem-first approach of, here's a significant business problem, and in the real estate world, it's basically around efficiency. Here's a significant efficiency issue. How can we solve this? How can we best solve this problem? So how do you get AI to do what you want it to do? Well, the first thing is to know what you want it to do. And then the second part is, well, do you actually need AI to solve that problem? So take, for example, robotic process automation. So we do a lot of process automation around inbound leads. And 95% of inbound leads generally come in what's called structured formats. So it's someone filling in a form.
Yeah.
The data's easy to read. You don't need there's not a massive variety of the type of data that's coming in. So, it's really, it's not that complex for a machine to understand, well, what do I need to do with this lead based off the information I have? You compare that. So in some ways, you could quite easily solve an efficiency issue around leads without necessarily employing AI. But what AI allows us to do, and particularly how we have applied the technology, is AI allows us to, I guess, have a broader capability in terms of understanding not just did we get a lead, what is that lead about, but also understanding the context of that lead. And so how do you get AI to do what you want it to do? Well, it's really about understanding the problem first, and then having an appreciation for what artificial intelligence can bring to that, bring to the potential solution, and is that enough of an incremental benefit to warrant the investment in the technology? But what we're finding is yes. So traditional automation software in itself. So products like If This Then That or Zapier, which are just connecting bits of data together.
Yeah.
By layering in some artificial intelligence in the decision-making process into the workflow, then we can drastically expand the capability.
Yeah, and so how do you? So obviously, not just anyone can I guess program a robot to do a job. Like, obviously, there's certain skills required to do that. Can you tell me a little bit about sort of, who are these people that are telling these robots what to do, and what are their skills?
Well, look, I mean, this is the thing, is this field is very much a new field. These are the people that are building these robots. So we're an engineering company, we're a software company, who just happens to be focused on real estate today. So I guess the people that need the skills are engineers, people who know how to code, and data scientists. So people who understand data and predictive analytics particularly. So taking a whole bunch of data in, having an algorithm, or an algorithm is a fancy word for a calculation or function, and then having an output. So they're the skills you need if you want to get into the business of robot making. But where we see, the real power is when we team up, I guess, industry experts. So I've been in the property industry for 15 years. My co-founder, Sarah, she's been in the industry similar time period. She's focused on property management. She's property management SME, understands how to drive efficiency in a rent roll. And so by taking our domain understanding of what that might look like, and then leveraging the technology to support that, we kind of get this sweet spot of value coming back. And I guess that's what I would encourage any business owners looking at potentially this space is, don't necessarily try and build it yourself. Find people. There's lots of companies that do RPA, and they do it for different industries, and they specialize in either big enterprise or telco or whatever that might be. But you really want someone that understands or has the capability of understanding your specific set of problems and how they might solve those.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. So I imagine there's a fair bit of business analysis involved in understanding, one, like you said, the problem, but also the process that is required to solve that problem, and then kind of mapping that out in a fair bit of detail, understanding where all the decision points are, and then getting a coder to then build the process so that a robot can do it.
Well, our approach is slightly different, maybe. So it's not just about kind of mapping out what you do today. You actually got to go back to the drawing board in a way. And in actual fact, if you kind of think about where, and particularly in real estate, if we think about real estate and where it's heading, is that the industry is under pressure to provide or prove the value that they provide. So I'm trying to think of a very eloquent way to explain this. The customer experience is not great today. You know, I think everyone can recognize that, not just in the industry, but also as consumers of property services. We know that there's massive room for improvement. And so you kind of got to come back to that idea, because if all the industry does and all you do as a business is you simply take what you do today, you take all those inefficiencies and you automate them, well, you haven't really necessarily, the question is then, well, what are you going to do with all this spare time? Now, if there's nothing else you can do to provide value, well, then that will obviously impact the amount you can charge, because your overheads are going to come down, etc. So we have a very clear view of what impact RPA automation and AI will have on, I guess, the knowledge workforce, what we consider to be the knowledge workforce, which is the humans involved. And so what we work with customers is, I guess, yes, we map out the baseline, or how do you do things today, but we also look at, well, if we kind of take away 50% of that and give it to Rita, what are you going to do, Mr. Agent or Mr. Business Owner or Mr. Property Manager or Mr. or Mrs. whoever? What are you going to do to provide more value? What can you do now to provide more value to your customer? And fundamentally what we're looking for is we're looking for those very human things that only humans can do. So things like relationships. Imagine if your property manager was not someone who just spent all day chasing arrears and just pushing maintenance between a tenant and a tradesperson. But imagine if there was someone who give you investment advice or tax advice, or had an ability to, I guess, guide you or provide professional input in terms of what type of investments you should be looking at, the return that you're getting, further investments you should make. We start thinking about the standard of service in the industry has a massive capability to improve, to make our lives better. And it's not just about the bottom line. I think that's, I'm not sure if I answered that question.
No. No, you did. So, it seems like every day there's a new fancy piece of technology or software entering the market. It's either a new CRM or a new piece of accounting software or some fancy new project management system. Is this just another fad, or is it here to stay, do you think?
No, this where we are at now. So I took where we're at now is one of the most significant points in history in terms of the capability for transformational change to how we live. And you kind of got to go back to, it's really interesting when you look at the history of human evolution, and particularly social evolution, so our standards of living, and you look at things like availability of food, shelter, all these things that we probably take for granted now in a first world country. But if you look at the technology that changed that in terms of a historical timeline, is actually the steam engine. So the steam engine coming onto the scene in the late 18th century really gave birth to the Industrial Revolution. And what that did is it kind of shifted, it allowed humans to leverage mechanical power to drastically improve their output or their productivity. So hence we ended up with massive improvements in manufacturing efficiencies. We could produce stuff at scale. We could travel, we could move from point A to point B a lot faster at a lot lower cost. So if you kind of think of that particular invention was the thing that changed, that had a significant transformational change. And even things like the internal combustion engine. I was reading a great article about horses and how the horse population peaked in 1915.
Yeah.
And the transition from horses as the predominant method of transport to cars was a period of 8 years. So there was kind of 4 years leading up to, when people started seeing the first cars, it was kind of took 4 years from there to get to the point at which it started becoming an accepted model of transport, and then it happened very quickly. So in the subsequent 4 years, that's when it took over as the dominant. So there is no question we are at a similar point in time, because what we have happening at the moment is we kind of have the steam engine version of a brain. So all of a sudden, what artificial intelligence represents is the ability for a machine to have exponentially greater wisdom and knowledge and understanding of how to solve problems or make decisions than potentially a significant proportion of the human race. And, if you think about that as an idea, you think about an entity that never has to relearn anything, that never forgets anything, that can absorb copious amounts of information within seconds. And the power of that is quite significant. So yeah, I think, you just need to think about what the potential impacts of autonomous vehicles might have on employment in the transport industry, or just our lives in general, how we live, the kinds of homes we build. So if you never need to own a car, well, why would you have a garage?
Yeah.
So I know the people in Balmain would be really happy to hear about that, because a garage is a really, hard thing to buy, but a house with a garage, I mean. So, it's not a fad. This is massive. It will, it will drastically change the way we work and live in the next 10 to 20 years. And it's happening a lot faster than anyone really, I think, understands. Anyone that's not watching it closely, just 5 years ago, there was many people in this space that said that a robot would never be able to drive a car. They just thought that was an impossible task, that it took too much cognitive capability, so much information and sensitivity around you, too much that a computer would never be able to do that. That was the view. And then I think just last month, there's now an autonomous bus operating in Australia.
Wow.
So it's going to happen very quickly.
Yeah. So, we talk about in businesses and in offices, if you look at all of the software tools that an employee might use, in some offices, certainly that I've worked in the past, there's been 5 or 6 or more sort of corporate systems, and they all have their different sort of logins, and they all do different things, and the data doesn't talk to each other, or if it does, it's like an overnight process, and it's just really clunky and not a very just not an easy thing to sort of deal with. Is AI just adding just another system that's actually going to cause inefficiencies?
No, in actual fact, it's the absolute opposite of that. So robotic process automation, if you kind of think of where business is today, and what you've just described there is no different whether you've got a real estate agency or an accounting office.
Yeah. In
nearly all businesses, you've got multiple sources of data. You've got multiple applications that are there to allow humans to interact with that data. And the reason why those systems exist is because if you think about traditional software, it's been built for a very specific purpose and function. And so that's what happens is you kind of, it's like doctors, you wouldn't have a GP doing open heart surgery, but you still need both, depending if you have a heart condition.
Yeah.
So same thing with software. You are always going to have, I guess, this patchwork or this stack of technologies that have a particular specialty. The good news is that most of the modern platforms and modern best practice technologies all have what's called an API.
Yeah.
which stands for Application Programming Interface. And an API is a particular layer within the technology that allows, I guess, a computer to interact with that data. And even in the space of APIs, even APIs themselves have evolved a lot in terms of how they're structured, how they're built, how they're documented, how people access them, what they do. So companies, software companies now that say CRM companies that build from an API first approach. And if you think of Salesforce, the reason why Salesforce was so successful is because they were one of the first CRMs to really start with an API first approach. They built Force.com, the underlying platform of Salesforce. The UI you see today is largely built upon their core API. But what that allows you to do is allow System A to talk to System B really, really efficiently. Without getting into too much detail, it allows you to, I guess, bridge the gap between siloed data. And this is where RPA really fits in. It's because what we've done traditionally is we've got System A and System B, and there is something that needs to happen in between them. Whether that's putting data from System A into System B, I mean, obviously that can be replaced through robots and automation. But traditionally we've put humans in between these systems. So, and that human is there to, I guess, interpret, because it's not just, it's not like copy and paste. Sometimes there's interpretation required in terms of, what does this system in System A, what does this data in System A actually mean in System B? There's a lot of humans involved. So that's effectively what we've done, is we've gone and plugged humans in between these specialist pieces of technology in our business. RPA is about filling that gap with robots. The whole thing that we talk about with Rita is we actually talk about her as a person.
Yeah.
Because it just does take away the issue of talking about technology, and we focus on the business problems. And we also say, you don't need to log into Rita. You don't log into Rita. She reports to you. You don't have to change your business to have Rita work for you. Like, that's just silly. You wouldn't employ someone and say, how do you want, we're going to do things your way. You just wouldn't do that. What you do is you say, Rita, this is how we do things. We'd like you to do it the same way. And so that's kind of how we view it. It's not an extra login. This is a resource. What most business owners, and I'm sure every business owner can sympathize with, is that when you go and buy a piece of traditional software or a new piece of software, a new CRM, it's not just the cost of the CRM that's there, it's the overhead of traditional software. So you've got, and I laugh when people kind of ask for free trials of things, is that there's no such thing. If you're not paying for the product, you are the product. So if there's a free trial of a piece of software, just be aware that you have to still have to invest time in.
Still have to use it, learn how to use it. And
it can, depending on what it's doing. I mean, if it doesn't take a long time to learn, it's probably not doing much for you anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like, And so as a result, we kind of look for these silver bullet pieces of software, these things that do one particular thing. And sure, they might do it well, but eventually you're going to have hundreds and hundreds of systems that, and potentially just become more siloed, and it becomes a jumbled mess. And so what we actually do when we go into a business is we pick one system as the core. We go, this is the heartbeat. This is where everything needs to sit. It's not and then we look at the other systems around it, and we architect Rita to make sure that she can work across all of those systems, but she's also ensuring that best practice is done around things like single view of a customer. So that's I guess that's the answer to that. We don't like passwords. We want to reduce the number of. If we can pull technology out of a business, subscriptions out of a business, we will. Where they don't.
Yeah. And I bet that there's probably a lot of happy employees around that work in companies that have adopted RPA and AI and no longer have to do those tasks that they just hate doing, those data entry things, trying to look at bring data from one system over to another, and there's no one, I'm sure, actually seriously likes doing those jobs. So I think that in the long run, having a robot to do that stuff makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some people that love data entry, but I think they need to start thinking of it's like if you like driving a car, if you like being a driver, you need to start thinking about how you can outperform a robot at that task. And as a driver, I don't know, there's probably ways you could potentially do that.
On a racetrack?
Maybe, who knows? So if you're good at driving, you might want to be like really good at driving fast, which is probably not what a robot's built for.
No.
But in terms of data entry, you got no hope. Like how in the world are you going to be a better data enterer than a robot? Did you know that there was once a role, an actual job description called a calculator? That's actually where that term came from. There was actual people employed to do calculations, kind of like a typing pool. So they would do calculations manually on literally abacus or some sort of mechanical device. And this was a role. And then you kind of think about that and you look at even the calculator, which is effectively a robot, right? It takes an input, has an algorithm and spits out an output. You would never even consider getting into that profession today, as a calculator. It's a weird idea. Same thing. I mean, if you are not customer facing, if you're not providing true value, if you're doing administrative tasks, and I'll give you another example, like arrears in real estate is a common task of a property manager that has to chase up outstanding rent payments. Now, if all you're doing today is sending text messages and emails, and if that's all you do today, then you will be replaced by a robot.
Yeah.
But if you get on the phone and you can empathize and you can be a problem solver, that you understand the many reasons why people might be late on their rent. You can give them strategic advice to make sure that they're never late again, all that sort of stuff. You need to get to that level, right?
Yeah.
So if your business is stuck in the old days of just all I do is I text people and I email people when they're late for payment, that won't be a job. That won't be a job in a year.
Yeah.
In our view, that's kind of what we're trying to get rid of.
Yeah.
But we also have a responsibility to make sure that, people can perform a much more valuable insight. So we have a tendency to treat tenants as second-rate citizens in real estate industry and buyers, in fact. But that really needs to change. The industry itself needs to look at the entire customer experience and who they service and all their respective stakeholders.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. And so you've covered off on a few, you guys are niched into real estate, and you've covered off on a very, very generally a few sort of tasks that Rita can do in an agency office. Can you go into a little bit more depth there and talk about what it's doing now, what will it be doing in 12 months' time?
Sure. So what we do now is we've got a sales program. So Rita can do a bunch of sales work, and that's around inquiry management, lead generation. So we automate things like taking an inbound lead, augmenting it with extra data, ownership records, cross-referencing it against existing databases, surfacing any insight, qualifying it better, and then kind of pushing that into various different systems if it needs to go there. So, for example, if they need to go into a nurture funnel, we can push them into those systems, or a newsletter subscription, or we need to set up alerts, etc. So we do that today, and that's kind of where we started. We also do bulk data analytics and cleansing. So big issue for most small businesses is you have these CRMs, which you've had in place for 15, 20 years. They've aggregated tens of thousands of records of people. And in order to maintain that information is a significant task, and not many people, not many businesses understood the value of customer data 15 years ago, or even now, they probably still underestimate the value of that information. And as a result, they probably underinvested in its maintenance. And so what you've got is you've got a bunch of dirty data that is potentially, well, feasibly impossible for a human to actually clean. So some people try throwing bodies at it, like someone to just go through and clean the data, but eventually, realistically, they're going to get through maybe 50 contacts a day, if that. What Rita can do now is she can process on bulk. She did, I think, 350,000 contacts in about 2 weeks across a set of 7 different databases. Yeah, so we're doing that kind of stuff. And really what that's about, it's about getting to your data to a point where it's actually useful again and very clear. And then what we do is we work through a structured process of either putting what we call a human in the loop. So, you know, we're very conscious that it can't all just be automated, it can't all just be robots, can't all just be, for example, the tendency for a lot of businesses is just to spam their database.
Yeah.
But we don't think that's the future. We really want to make sure that there's humans involved in providing value. So it's data. We can do market monitoring, so look at new listings that come to market, alert them if they're on the database. And then we've got a whole new pile around property management. So property management is a very labor, like currently it's a lot of people. So most agencies operate on a ratio of 1 full-time employee per 90 to 100 properties. And that's a statistic that hasn't changed in the industry for 30 years. Despite all this software coming into market that proposes or purports to drive efficiency. But it really hasn't changed that number. So what we're looking at is what kind of skills does Rita need to be a digital property manager effectively. So Arrears will handle application processing, maintenance. A lot of it can be automated, but it's most likely there'll be some things that we do full automation and other things where we do human in the loop automation. Depending on the client, what kind of experience they want. But yeah, it's certainly a long journey for us. In 12 months' time, we will have a significant number of case studies where ideally we've shifted the needle on how a real estate business operates today.
Yeah, wow. And I guess something we haven't touched on yet is that obviously a robot removes human error. So there's that accuracy benefit of a higher level of accuracy as well.
100%. Yeah. So we do what's called assisted learning, which means that so when we go in and we implement Rita into any business, there's always a training phase. So if you kind of think about how do we implement this technology, we do implement it as a bespoke implementation to any business. Because there needs to be a training phase. And what that training phase means is you go, here's what we want Rita to do, and here's how you want her to do it. And then inevitably what will happen is she will make mistakes, or there'll be certain things that happen in your specific business that she doesn't know how to handle. But the great thing about a digital employee is that once you teach them to do it the right way once, they never ever forget. So it's kind of like, and what we find is generally within the space of between 2 to 4 weeks, the number of exceptions or the number of tweaks or adjustments we have to make is barely minimal. And then from that point on, so consistent, so accurate that you don't have to worry about it. They work 24 hours a day. They don't get sick. They don't take holidays. They don't get married. They don't talk back. They don't need motivation to do the work. We call Rita the employee of the month, the persistent employee of the month. That's kind of what we're hoping for.
Yeah, awesome. So we're getting close to the end of the interview. Ian, what's your top growth tip for business owners looking to take their business to the next level?
Look, for us, the thing that we are really conscious of is quality. So making sure that we don't grow too fast. We've got a lot of demand in the space, as you would understand, it's a very big problem that everyone has. And I guess the tendency for us would be to take on a bunch of clients. But I think when you're in a high growth, when you see a high growth opportunity, for us, it's been about quality control, making sure that we know what our capabilities are and what they aren't. And also making sure that you can say no. So we get a lot of customers, like a lot of inquiry from people who think they need Rita, like the idea of Rita, and they like the idea of robotic process automation, but they kind of want it for the quick hit. You know, they think that this is just another it's another CRM that they can put into their business. Whereas really what we need to educate people on is this is a significant transformational change in how you structure your business, the type of service you want to provide to your community and your customers. And I guess the thing that's made us successful to this point is being fairly strict on who we do take on. Despite the massive demand, we have a very clear view of who we do and who we don't want to work with. And hopefully that will provide a great foundation for the future.
Yeah, great. And last question, are there any innovative tools, technology or services that you use in your business daily that's making things easier for you and assisting you in building your business, other than obviously Rita?
The irony is we spend more time automating our clients' businesses than our own. So it's a little ironic. But do you know what? I think, I mean, I wouldn't call them, we've got pretty high standards about what we think is an innovative piece of technology. So I guess, you know, for us, the key pieces of technology that we are on every day are our phones. Again, just making sure that, you know, if we were just pushing paper, or if we just had a website that was doing all our sales and all our marketing, then that would not be ideal, because that can be automated. So we make sure that we have a very strict understanding of our service level. We're a very personal service business. You know, we kind of figure ourselves like that. But, you know, we use Facebook a lot. So interestingly, we don't have necessarily a centralized CRM. We use our Facebook as our CRM. But it's how we leverage that to, I guess, build relationships is important. But also then what we do is we integrate, we use social advertising quite heavily. We've had to turn it off because we're getting too much demand, so that's a good problem to have. But you know, I think if there is one piece of technology or one digital technique that you need to get a handle on as a business owner is digital advertising. You just need to be all over that. You need to understand the principles of content marketing, and providing value, and I guess very targeted marketing and the capabilities now. If you can't target your potential customers efficiently, then you won't be competitive in a few years.
Totally agree. Need to know who your customers are to the nth degree as well, because there's, you know, you can segment in so many different ways these days in that digital space. So I agree. All right, Ian, that's awesome. Thanks for your time today. It's been great chatting to you.
Oh, awesome. Well, all the best for the podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Ian.
Bye.
The Go for Growth Show, powered by Beepo.